imagine if I told you that you could take a particular chemical, DMT, and then stare into a laser and see code, right? Code written into the world, right? Sort of like the Matrix, right? Exactly like that, right? What if I were to tell you that's real, right? Because there is someone claiming to have discovered this, basically. His name is Danny Goler. He is a filmmaker out of Los Angeles. And this is kind of making the rounds on the internet a little bit here, and people are experimenting with it. And I got to be honest, this is kind of interesting. So let's dive into this and see what this is all about. Now, before we begin, I think it would be, benefit all of us if we could learn exactly what DMT is and how it affects your brain, right? Let's start there. So here's a quick 2-minute clip to just kind of give us a little background, a little educational background here on exactly what DMT is.
DMT is a substance that's produced naturally in a variety of plants and animals, including humans. The functions of naturally produced DMT are unclear, but DMT is also a potent psychoactive drug known for its ability to produce intense but relatively short-lived hallucinations and psychedelic experiences. When used recreationally, DMT is typically smoked, but it's also the main psychoactive ingredient in ayahuasca, a brewed drink that produces longer-lasting psychedelic effects. Although orally administered DMT is rapidly degraded by an enzyme called monoamine oxidase, ayahuasca is brewed with plants that contain inhibitors of this enzyme, enabling the DMT in ayahuasca to remain active even though it's administered orally. The pharmacology of DMT is not well understood. The drug has actions at a variety of receptors in the nervous system, but its best characterized effects are its ability to stimulate a wide range of serotonin receptor subtypes. Studies suggest that DMT's action at the 5-HT2A serotonin receptor is especially important for producing its characteristically intense visual hallucinations. At the same time, stimulation of the 5-HT2A receptor alone does not seem to be sufficient to cause the hallucinations experienced by DMT users. Thus, it's thought that other serotonin receptor subtypes might be involved in these effects, and some evidence suggests that receptors for the neurotransmitter glutamate may play a role as well. It's also possible that DMT's actions at other receptors, such as sigma-1 receptors and traceamine-associated receptors, may contribute to the drug's effects, but more research is needed to elucidate DMT's full mechanism of action. DMT, like many other psychedelic drugs, is now gaining attention for its therapeutic potential. Studies with ayahuasca have found the drink to have beneficial effects in the treatment of depression, anxiety, and addiction, and studies are currently underway to investigate the possibility of DMT alone offering some of the same benefits.
All right, now that we understand exactly a little bit more of what DMT is, and let me preface this by saying, this next segment anyway, by saying that by no means am I encouraging anyone to try this. I recommend, doctor assistance. I am by no way recommending partaking and doing anything like this. I'm just telling you what other people have done. So be very careful out there. This isn't an endorsement or anything like that. You have to be careful when it comes to substances. All right. That is absolutely paramount. So I just want to make that clear. Now, let's dive into this. All right. So let's take a listen to an explanation from Danny, exactly explaining what is occurring, right, from his own mouth and how he kind of came upon this, right? Again, Danny Goler on the Danny Jones podcast talking about this.
You have basically found a tear in the fabric of reality. You found a way under the map, so as people that play video games would say.
I get that's a really good way of putting it. Yeah.
Can you first of all explain exactly what you discovered and how you discovered it, and then we'll kind of we'll sum that up. Then we'll start from the beginning,
sure, and
then go through a linear fashion of how this all happened.
Okay, so in short, I basically discovered that there is a way. There's this phenomena on DMT that a lot of people experiencing similar things. Emphasis on similar, very similar, but similar. And I asked, because I've done it so many times, I asked myself, okay, wait a second. I don't think there's any possibility at this point for me to believe that this is somehow mind-made, whatever we call mind-made, right? And then I asked myself, okay, well, if this space is real, is there anything we can do to prove that it's real? And one of the first things that came to mind is like, well, if we can find something that is exactly the same in that space for everybody, that puts us in a good place to start talking about it.
Like a repeatable experiment.
Well, repeatable experiment would be the thing that would show you that it's the same. I'm saying, yeah, can we find that one thing in some way that is the same for everybody? That was the thought. It took me years to figure it out, and we can talk about the details of how I figured it out at the end. But this one component, which essentially is what I discovered, if you project a diffracted laser on the surface, which just means a band of a laser, just like the thing that scans barcodes in a supermarket, and you smoke DMT, you will see code running in the surface that you're projecting the laser on. And this basically is the same for every single person. They see, in the beginning, they kind of see similar, like they see some structures, they see some movement, they see something kind of like there. But then eventually they drop into the space where they just see the same thing. And we can sit in a room. I had 15 people in a room at the same time, talking about it, pointing to it. You can literally talk about it like you talk about a regular object in a room. This is how coherent it is. That's the gist of what I found.
All right, now let's take a look at exactly the experiment, right? Like exactly what's going on, right? And get a little more detail from Danny, doing this, right? Again, this is so crazy to me, if true, for sure. And as we'll go through this video, you'll see a lot of people have tried this and are seeing the same thing. But rest assured, stay to the end, because I've got a statement from a neuroscientist who's going to add a little nuance to this conversation. But first, let's take a look at the experiment in action and exactly how to do it and, what you should be looking for.
One of the most important things to pay attention to is that you're looking through the laser, not at the diffraction pattern that falls on the wall. So even if you're sitting 2 or 3 feet away, like we're seeing here, you want to be looking at beyond the light, like you're looking through the window versus looking at the surface of the window. Also notice how wide the diffracted pattern of the laser is on the wall. People that choose lasers that produce this thing that just looks like one line, that's not wide enough for you to see anything, because you're looking beyond the laser, not at the surface. So it will be too thin, too narrow of a crack to look through, so to speak. You can come closer like this, and I would recommend to cover one eye so the light doesn't hit your cornea. And then you would be looking from the side. From the side is better because you get a separation of the layers inside.
So I have to admit, right, at first glance, it looks a little crazy, right? You throw up some lasers on the wall, you take some DRUGS, and boom, now you're seeing things. Yeah, been there, done that. But, are you actually breaking in and discovering this new world, or is it you're discovering the world we actually live in, right? Because as you see in this same clip that I'm going to play a little bit more of here, you can see there are wrong ways to do it, and there's kind of a specific way so that you make sure you see this code, right, essentially.
You want to stay with it until you start seeing digits. The separation between just seeing the structures and seeing the digits is total. When you still see the structures, it's possible to imagine that these structures are due to the influence of DMT in your brain while you're looking at a stochastic pattern. But when you see the digits, this hypothesis becomes much less tenable. You will notice some motion. Stay with that motion. The digits are usually much smaller than people expect. So keep looking until you see actual digits running. Numerals and what seems like Japanese katakana characters. If you're using a glass of water like here, what you can do, you can either look into the glass of water, into the little reflections that you can see inside the glass. And then what you want to do is to mimic the gesture that we do when we go a little bit cross-eyed, which you will notice is the same gesture that your eyes are doing when you're trying to look beyond.
Am I doing it, guys? I think I'm doing it. Oh my God. I see God.